So we've taken a look at the simpler delay lines and delay effects in Ableton Live, and now it's time to look at the more complex ones. There's two I'm going to focus on here. We've got the grain delay on the left, and we've got the filter delay on the right. And straight away you can see that they're more complex in nature as far as their parameters go and their interfaces go. But not only that, they're much more complex in the sounds they can create. Now, these effects are probably not quite as usable in the real world as far as real mix scenarios go, but they are great for creating special effects and adding something different and something extra to your productions if you're looking for that special effect plugin. So let's look at the grain delay first. And not only is this pretty interesting in its interface, you can see that we've got this big XY pad here and the way that the parameters are laid out around that XY pad, but it's also really interesting in the way it actually produces its sound. It uses a form of granular synthesis to split up the incoming signal into separate little grains, and then these grains are delayed separately and treated separately to create this granular grain delay effect. So what we're working with realistically is parameters that we can set to the y-axis and parameters we can set to the x-axis. Now, all of these can be altered individually using the manual sliders or faders, whatever you want to call them here, but they can also be altered using the XY control. Now, the only way that the XY control can access these parameters is by setting them accordingly. So if we set frequency, for example, and this is before I play any sound at all, to the y-axis and pitch to the x-axis, you can see that this will control the pitch and this will control the frequency. Like I said, you can control the rest of them manually, even if they aren't assigned to either the x or y. So let's go ahead and have a listen to an example of what the grain delay is capable of, and then I'll explain what each parameter does. So I'm going to go ahead and set the y to frequency. In fact, no, I'll go to pitch, and we'll use the feedback on the X. So as you can hear, you can get some pretty crazy effects. And like I said before, maybe these aren't really usable as a standard workhorse delay effect. But if you want that crazy special effect sequence, then this could be exactly the plugin you're looking for. So as I said before, this plugin uses granular synthesis, or at least a form of it, to create its grain delay effect. Now, each of these parameters control the way these separate little slices or grains work. For example, the spray parameter will add random time changes to the delayed grains. Frequency will change the actual frequency of them, while pitch will change the overall pitch of all the grains. So if we've got, let's have a listen here, pitch and frequency, you should be able to hear the difference. Pretty crazy effects. And, you know, it's one of those plugins that you can really get into controlling and playing around with, and especially using control surfaces. Maybe if you've got an XY pad on your controller, you would it's worth experimenting with that. We've also got more standard controls here. Like I said before, we've got feedback dry and wet, which you're going to see on most delay plugins. And then we've got a timing area, like we've seen in the more simple delays. So you can sync the whole thing, or you can have it free running. So then if you've got it synced, you've got musical measurements here, and an offset here you can use to get more interesting grooves. So really, it's an extremely interesting delay plugin. Definitely not run-of-the-mill, so maybe different to other delays you've seen in the past. But for something a little more conventional, but that is maybe more flexible and still capable of producing very special effects, you've got the filter delay, and we'll take a good look at that in the next video.